Hey Tiana, how are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Good. I'm so glad that you made it in this week again and that we get to talk a little bit more. So, I just wanted to go ahead and review confidentiality with you again just because it's our second session and I just want to make sure that you have a clear understanding and that you didn't forget anything.
Okay.
So, like last week, I said that if you tell me that you're going to hurt yourself or someone else, I'm going to have to go ahead and report that. And if you disclose that a elderly person, a child, or a disabled person is being abused, I also have to report that. But anything else you tell me is completely confidential. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You don't have any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so this session isn't going to be like last session. Hopefully I'll do less talking and you'll do more of the talking so we can kind of work through some problems that you're having. So we're going to move right along into the mood check.
Okay.
So I remember last week we talked about your anxiety. So between sessions this past week, how has your anxiety been on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being it's not affecting you, and 10 being like it's the most intense anxiety you've ever felt.
I think it was at a 9.5 this week.
9.5? Okay. So, that's really high. You must have had a really tough week. I'm really sorry to hear that. Hopefully through this session we can work on getting that number down.
Yeah, I'm really hoping so.
Good. Yeah, I definitely think we can. So today, sitting here with me right now, how is your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think I'm about an 8 right now.
8? Okay. Well, thankfully that's lower than a 9.5, but it's still high enough that it's concerning, and I would really like to get that number down, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this past week, tell me what made you a 9.5? What made your week, or what made you so anxious this past week?
Well, I've been really busy at work lately. And I've been working long hours, and so I'd be getting home late, and I haven't really had a chance to clean up the house. And the other night my husband came home and asked how come the house wasn't clean and what I was doing with my life because I have nothing but time. And so I just felt like I was a horrible wife.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that if the house isn't clean, you feel like a horrible wife, or that you are a horrible wife.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there anything else this past week that just made you a 9.5, that made you really anxious?
I think that was the biggest thing.
That was
right now, yeah.
I can tell that it's definitely making you anxious just sitting here, and that you're very apprehensive about the whole thing. So, I'll definitely put that on the agenda, and let's go ahead and talk about homework. Were you able to work on your thought record at all this past week?
Yeah, I was.
Were you able to identify any automatic thoughts that you were having?
I did.
Okay.
I remember thinking that I was a bad mother. Because my 5-year-old was outside playing. And I just happened to look away for a second, and he fell and scraped his knee, and he came in crying, asking, "Where were you? You were supposed to be watching me."
Oh, that must have been really tough for you.
It was. I remember thinking, man, I'm such a terrible mother. There's no way that I should be a mother, and I just felt really, really anxious and scared, and just worried, I guess, too.
Definitely, yeah. I can definitely see that you took that hard and that it really upset you.
Yeah.
So what you're saying to me is that if you look away for a second and your son falls and scrapes his knee, that you feel like you're a bad mother.
Yeah.
That's accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so today I want to talk about those things. Obviously, they're taking a toll on your well-being and your mental health because they're making you anxious. So out of the two problems that you gave me, you saying that you've been really busy and because the house is dirty, you feel like your husband thinks you're a horrible wife, and that if you look away for a second, your son scrapes his knee and you think you're a bad mother. So out of those two, which one would you like to work on first? You make sure that we get time to talk about that today.
Probably the one with my husband.
Okay.
And making sure that the house is clean.
Mhm.
'Cause I feel like that's really what's been on my mind lately, and I think that that might be affecting my, I guess my, I don't want to say willingness to watch my child, but it's really distracting me lately.
Like you definitely, you value that relationship so much, so it's definitely on the back of your mind constantly.
Yeah, it seems to be taking a toll on me.
Definitely, I can definitely see how that would work. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I want to work through this problem with you and ask you some challenging questions so maybe we can challenge this thought you're having that you're a horrible wife, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so just to clarify, you're thinking, if the house is dirty, I'm a horrible wife. Then I'm a horrible wife. Is that?
Yeah.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
So how much do you believe this thought on a scale of 1 to 10 in the moment when you're thinking that I'm a horrible wife because the house isn't clean?
I definitely believe it. I'd say probably a 10.
A 10? Wow. So there's no doubt in your mind that you're,
Yeah.
because the house isn't clean.
I can't please him, so
Right.
why wouldn't I be a horrible wife?
That's very hard. It's very hard. So, how do you feel when you're at this 10 and you just say that you're a horrible wife? Like an emotion. Emotionally, how do you feel?
Emotionally, I feel drained, but I don't think that's an emotion. So sad.
Sad? Okay. Sad. So, you feel sad that you didn't make them happy type thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And in that moment when you're feeling that 10 and you're feeling sad, how strongly do you feel that emotion?
A 10.
A 10 also?
I feel it very strongly.
It's a really high number. I'm sorry that you're so, that makes you so sad. So when does the thought that you're a horrible wife come up in your mind? When does it come up for you? Like a specific situation?
When I'm coming home from work and I know the house isn't clean, and he's getting off one of his 16-hour shifts. So I know he's tired and just doesn't want to do anything. So that's usually the time that I start feeling this a lot. So like last week, I came home, was just really exhausted. And I knew he was coming home from a 16-hour shift, but I didn't want to do anything. So I definitely felt like a horrible wife for not wanting to do anything.
Yeah, you sound like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to have the house clean. Does that sound about right? Okay. So, what did you notice happening in your body on your way home from work when you were driving home and you just started to feel really anxious about the house not being clean?
My heartbeat started racing.
Okay.
And I got really nervous and cold sweats. And that's about it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously it was enough for you to notice, so you were definitely feeling it. So what did you do next after your heart was racing and after you were getting those cold sweats and you were on your way home? What happened next?
I rolled down my windows and tried to take deep breaths in. As soon as I got home, I started a bubble bath just so that I could take some time for myself. Kind of just blocked everything out.
Well, I commend you on noticing that your heart was racing and that you were getting cold sweats, so you kind of took time to step back and roll the windows down and take some deep breaths to maybe calm yourself down. You were self-aware enough to know to do that, so that's great.
Thank you.
So I just want to go ahead and challenge the thought that you're a horrible wife with you. I want to go through it with you, and I want to go through it and work it and see if we can maybe get some of your anxiety down about it, okay?
Okay.
So what evidence do you have to support the idea that you are a horrible wife?
That the house is never clean.
Okay.
When it should be.
Okay, and so is there anything else, or is that's the only piece of evidence you have?
That's the biggest one.
Okay, and so what evidence do you have against you being a horrible wife?
I guess when my husband comes home randomly with little surprises like flowers or ice cream. I love ice cream.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do too. Okay. Is there any other evidence that's against it?
I think those are the two biggest
Those
ones.
are the two things. So your husband, just that he's thinking of you and that he surprised you.
Yeah.
Good. So do you think that there's an alternative explanation for your husband coming home and maybe getting mad about the house not being clean?
It's probably because he does work so many 16-hour shifts, so he's probably just really tired, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
It's not that he's necessarily upset that the house isn't clean, it's just he's had a rough day of work.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about, even if him thinking the house, him not saying, or the house not being clean and him thinking that you are a horrible wife, what's the worst that could happen?
The worst that could happen is he just goes to sleep upset, I guess.
And what is the best that could happen? So say that it's not true, that he doesn't think you're a horrible wife.
He brings me gifts.
Gifts are always nice. Huh?
Yeah. And we sit down and watch a movie with our son.
Now, what do you think the most realistic would be out of the two?
Probably sitting down to watch a movie with our son.
I can see that you're very family oriented.
Yeah, definitely am.
Okay. So, what is the effect of you believing this automatic thought that you're a horrible wife?
It definitely puts pressure on me, I think. It makes me feel very overwhelmed.
Which, as you said, you think that being pressured and overwhelmed, it's on the back of your mind, so it has an effect on you, your parenting, so the relationship you have with your son. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down.
Yeah, that definitely is correct.
Okay, so say that, hypothetically speaking, your best friend was in the same situation you are. So she's really busy, she has a lot to do, she works, she has a family, and she doesn't necessarily keep her house spotless all of the time. And her husband comes home and gets angry sometimes after working really, really long shifts. I mean, that's got to be stressful. What would you say to her if she thought that she was just a horrible wife?
I would probably tell her that she does the best that she can do, and I would tell her that no matter how much stress she may be going through, or how much she thinks that he doesn't appreciate the things that she does, that there is a lot of love and appreciation.
Yeah, definitely.
And that just because he works long hours doesn't mean that he doesn't like what she does.
Yeah, definitely.
Or doesn't appreciate the fact that she's even taking care of their son.
That's great advice. Do you think that maybe when you're feeling you're feeling stressed about being a horrible wife, you can maybe allow yourself the same courtesy and maybe give yourself some uplifting advice?
Yeah, I think that might be something I could do.
Just something to work on.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressured to do it. Okay, so I just want to go ahead and explain what we just did. It's a part of CBT. We talked about it a little bit last week, so how your thoughts affect your emotions, which then affect your actions, or your feelings affect your actions. So what we just did is we talked about our situation, which is your husband not, the house not being clean. So your husband, or you felt that your husband thought you were a horrible wife. And that goes through our belief system, so our core beliefs. So what I'm hearing from you is you just kind of feel worthless. So you don't feel like you're necessarily good enough for your husband. You don't feel like you're being, you don't feel like you're upholding necessarily what you're supposed to do, so you're not worthy of him. So he just goes to bed mad. basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you put that situation through that core belief, and then it affects your thoughts. So your thought, I'm a horrible wife because I don't have my house clean, which affects your feelings. So you felt sad and overwhelmed and pressured, and then which affects your behavior. So maybe you said that you went and you blocked everything out when you went and got in your bath. That could be a result of that feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Okay, so I just want to go back, and after reviewing that evidence, you said that he'll bring you gifts and he takes the time to think about you and he'll bring you some ice cream. And you said that only evidencing for the fact you thinking that you're a horrible wife is that the house isn't clean. So how much do you believe that you're a horrible wife now, looking back at everything we just walked through on a scale of 1 to 10 again?
I probably believe it a little less now, so it's probably at a 3 or a 4.
Oh wow, that's a really big difference from the 10 we were at. I'm really glad that we got that number down, because really glad we got the number down. So we're nearing the end of our session, and I just want to go ahead and talk about how the assignments we have between sessions, so you don't forget what we worked on.
Okay.
So this is our cognitive distortion paper, and so there's different distortions that you think. Everyone thinks them, so don't feel bad about thinking this way, but what I've seen from you is you're kind of labeling yourself as a horrible wife. So you assign a global negative trait to yourself. So you saying you're a horrible wife. So if you just want to take this, we're going to add to the homework.
Okay.
So last week we did the thought record. So I want to see, we're going to do the same thing this week, but I want you to see if you can assign a cognitive distortion to your automatic thought. So when you're starting to feel, you mentioned cold sweat, and I think you said your heart is racing. So when you start to feel that, I want you to be self-aware of what you're thinking, the automatic thought, and maybe what distortion might go with it. So you can take that paper with you.
Okay.
Does that sound like something you could maybe do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. About how many times do you think you could do it this week?
Probably 2 or 3.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, just focus on that. And if you do it more, if you think about it, that's great. And if you do it less, don't worry about it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and so next, I just kind of want to talk about a summary. So I want you to maybe tell me what we talked about this session, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything and that you have a clear understanding of what we went over.
Okay. So we talked about me feeling like a horrible wife. And you really helped me through not thinking that. You asked me several questions that actually challenged the way I thought about myself, and asked me for evidence that proves that I'm a horrible person and evidence that proves against being a horrible wife. And then we talked about cognitive distortions and how I'm labeling myself as a horrible wife without having much evidence behind that. And so you gave me a new homework assignment that deals with the cognitive distortions, and just to go along with the thought record that we were doing last week. Yeah,
that was a great summary. You covered everything that we went over today. So I'm going to go ahead and get some feedback from you, because like I said last week, how you feel about our sessions is really important, and I'd like to know if I can improve anything. So what worked for you this week?
I think definitely showing me this cognitive distortion paper, because I never realized that I was labeling myself. And I think that challenging some of my thoughts was really helpful as well.
Well, good. I'm super glad that we were able to collaboratively work through that. And did anything not work for you this week? Is there anything you'd like me to change?
No, I think everything was really good.
Well, good. That makes me super happy. I'm glad this is working for you. So thank you for coming in. Take that sheet and work on your homework between sessions, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay, thank you.